Well, I did have, I know that I sent out an email saying that I was going to have talking points, and I worked on it, and Claire sent me some talking points, and I revised them and sent them back in, and I never got to a place where I was comfortable with the way they sounded. I felt like when I was drafting these talking points, I was pulling from things other counselors had said, and I didn't like putting other people's words, trying to interpret other people's words. I never got to a place where I felt like it was something that I wanted to give to everybody. So if you want to see my notes, I can give them to you, but I'd rather just try and express my own perspective and then let other people join in if they can or feel that they need to. I have seen a number of emails that relate to their council emails that relate to staff's abilities or inabilities to do their jobs. And the tenor of those emails, there may be some nugget of information in there that needs to be addressed or handled or discussed by supervisors, but those nuggets of personnel issues that ought to be addressed have been surrounded by a lot of hostile language and what appears to be people, counselors, insinuating that someone's going to lose their job over this issue, that issue, this thing. And it has made me really uncomfortable, me personally really uncomfortable. For several weeks I didn't say anything. I don't typically interact via email. I'm careful about making sure we don't have a quorum on internet communications. So I've just not said anything. But I have heard from other counselors that the same emails were causing them also discomfort. And because I've heard so many other counselors being uncomfortable, I myself have been uncomfortable, I thought we needed to talk about it. We needed to say something. I think that it's inappropriate for any kind of insinuating that or pressure on the city manager to hire or fire any particular person. I think that is counter to our city charter. I think we need to be mindful of that. I think if there's actually an issue, a personnel issue that needs to be addressed, we need to find out the proper channel for that, address it, investigate it. If a termination needs to happen, we need to do it in the proper way, but not to go against our city charter in the making. So that's, I guess, that I have notes. I can refer to my notes and see if I got everything out that I needed to say. But if anyone else wants to jump in and express their views on the subject, I'd be happy to hear it.
Councilor Jones?
I too have been very uncomfortable with a lot of the emails, and I do like to get emails, but the last couple of weeks, I just dread opening them because so many of them are so upsetting. I didn't open it over the weekend because I had company and I didn't want to be upset. I lost a lot of sleep after reading emails because they seem mean-spirited. I feel that the citizens that we serve want us to get along and work together to solve the city's issues and to get along with staff. And the insinuations that we've been lied to by staff are very disquieting, and I personally don't believe it. So I would just advocate for a more congenial. I'm not saying we are facing very difficult issues that we need to tackle, but let's do it in the spirit that we're working together to solve these problems.
If a council member sees a problem, do they not have a duty to bring it to the attention of the city
duty to bring it to the city manager. I believe everyone at the table has, but I don't think that that hostility or the idea that someone's going to lose their job and putting that kind of pressure onto the city manager, I don't think that's appropriate. I think if we're going to say that this is such a big deal that someone needs to lose their job over, then we need to go through the proper channels. And we need to investigate whatever issue is there. Then we need to make sure that that is investigated and comes to a satisfactory conclusion. But it's not just expressing that there's a problem. It's the tenor and the tone of it feels very disrespectful, and I don't think that that's the way that we get things done. And I want to say civility and respect, they're not just touchy-feely, and it's not just niceties. I think it's actually the way you get people to do what you like them to do. And I know that if I'm spoken to civilly, I am more likely to hear those words and be convinced to go in that direction. If I believe that the person talking to me hates me and everything that I do, I'm not likely to care that much. So I think that we have a lot of things that need to get done, and anything that we can do to move forward and not appear to be fighting with each other or staff or citizens or anyone. If we can just present problems and then try to get them worked out, then we're going to be a lot further towards coming up with solutions for things like this is what I wanted, this is what we need to talk about. These kinds of things are what we need to talk about. The problem, the solution. And the incivility gets in the way of getting to this. And that's...
So, the city council only has one employee, the city manager. Everyone else who works for the city works for the city manager. It really isn't proper for it's kind of a last, in my opinion, it's kind of a last step when the council would have to have an executive session and discuss one of the other employees of the city and then direct the city manager to do something. That's kind of the last step. It's really the city manager's job to see that, to hire and fire in this town. It's his job. And if a council member sees a problem and tries to bring it to his attention, and then nothing, ever gets done, then, it's kind of a last ditch attempt. It's your idea of getting the entire council together. But I don't think it would be proper for the entire council to not ever say anything to the city manager.
No.
And to have an executive meeting and just give him a directive. So
I agree with
so
what
I don't-
you're saying. I don't know what...
So I don't see a problem with council members if they see a problem pointing it out to the city
I
manager.
don't have a problem with that at all either.
That's fine.
Do
It's
you
just
have-
when it's seen as badgering and pointing fingers and personal attacks that I think are improper. I think we should show respect to the staff. If there's something going wrong, we should address it to the city manager.
Councilor Buck.
I think that some of the things I've heard are spoken in generalities. And some of the things that I interpreted ultimately as personal attacks are making accusations about other people. It's attributing motives to them that they themselves do not hold, or beliefs. And we, as individuals, need to be more careful as we speak to each other and as we speak to employees about what we say and how we say it. And that is going to determine our effectiveness as counselors. If we can't maintain our credibility because we're making some general broad sweeping accusations against staff and nobody believes us or believes us as individuals, then we're not going to get anywhere and we're not going to solve problems. I think the charter is very clear and makes a statement in section 22 about the responsibilities. It is clearly stated that the council should not interfere in the administrative or personnel decisions. There is a line that we cross if we go beyond saying, you know, I'm being told this, it looks like a problem. Mike, I need you to look at this and tell me what you think. Versus saying to the city manager, I believe this employee is incompetent or is lying and I want this person fired. We cross a line that is, it's very clear in the charter that we all sort of support. We're amateurs, we're not professional politicians. We come on here from anywhere from 2 to 8 years, and we can be good at it or we can be miserable at it. And the thing that we need to do is all of us make a really good, conscious effort, deliberate effort, to try to speak to each other reasonably, and try to speak to the staff reasonably, and ask them questions that are very specific and very direct, and say, can you give me this answer? And always be willing to extend the benefit of the doubt. Not say, because you answered me this way and I don't agree with it, you're lying to me. I think I know better. That person is not staff, that is a person. And that person has a sense of personal integrity. And if we attack that, then all we do is demoralize our staff. And if we interfere with the charter's setup of responsibilities and authority, then we step over the line and we go back to a period in history where when I moved to town, people said, you know, it's always gone back and forth depending upon which church you go to. You couldn't hold a job long-term in this town. I don't ever want to hear that again. And I think we've moved beyond that. And I think that period of history should be closed very happily. The same thing goes for personal animosities. If I don't like an individual, it is not my job to take my personal dislike of an individual and turn that into a quest to see that person fired. It's just not right. And it's not part of my value system. And I want, this is a very good, very reasonable, very well-educated, intelligent council. I think we are all reasonable people, capable of speaking to each other and saying, I think this is the rule, we should follow it this way. Let's all work together in this way. That doesn't mean that we're always going to agree. It doesn't mean we're going to agree with Mike. But Mike has the authority and the responsibility to make those personnel decisions. And if he comes back to me and he says, Claire, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. I see this, and I looked into the things you told me about, and we just have to disagree. Then, as a counselor, unless I see something really strongly inappropriate that would justify terminating an employee, I'm not going to come to any of you and say, I think we should fire this employee, and if Mike won't do it, we should fire him. That's where we cross the line. We shouldn't do that. And the other place where we cross the line about what is proper is if we as individuals or as a group say, I'm going to take it upon myself to force a change. And we know very well that the majority of council doesn't support that change at the time we're trying to make it. The proper way for a councilor to make a major decision that would affect staffing, personnel, and the city manager's job would be to speak with other councilors. And there comes a point where you simply say, all right, to me this is so serious, I'm going to call a motion in council.